Okay, we are talking with Stephen Sanzeri once again, and we're going to be talking about some of his past life, how he got involved with Gold's Gym, bodybuilding, and, of course, professional wrestling. Hey, Stephen, how are you?
Hey, Greg, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I was just getting ready because it is actually WrestleMania weekend, and it's a 2-day thing. As people know, we have, because of the COVID, they have not had any live shows. They've had live shows, but they haven't had people in the actual stadiums. So last night, WrestleMania Part 1, Day 1, was the first time that they had people in a stadium, and that was really cool. Of course, I didn't like the fact that many of the people were actually wearing masks. Because it was in Florida, they didn't have to, so that was nice. And I saw as the night went on, there were less and less people actually wearing masks. So I was pretty happy with it. It was really cool to finally see people in those crowds, going back to our childhood days. It really brought back some of those times and, sitting in those crowds. And there's just really nothing like it. The only thing that I did not like about the WrestleMania show last night is, of course, they have to push the stupid COVID shot. So they're like, get your shot. We're all in this. It's just the same crap that I've heard. I've always watched wrestling to get as far from all of the politics, from all of the real life, from all of that stuff. That's why I watch wrestling. I don't watch wrestling because I want it to mirror my real life. So that was the only thing that bothered me. But I am looking forward to Day 2 for WrestleMania 2021, and hopefully, the good thing is they only pushed the COVID shot once, so I was okay with that. It was like, all right, whatever. It wasn't like they were pushing it too much, but I think the only reason why they were able to have people in the stadium was because they were in Florida. They were in Tampa Bay last night, so it was not a full stadium either, and but it's really good to kind of see something in our lives getting back to normal. I don't know if the baseball and all the other sports, if they're all going to follow suit, but kind of gave up on baseball and on football because of their stances. The whole BLM stance, and we can't stand for the pledge. I mean, how disrespectful is that to not be able to stand for the pledge? And if you're not going to stand, okay, just be silent. But to actually kneel, it just seems very satanic. But that's just my own view on it. So that's how I'm doing, my friend. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm good. I'm great. WrestleMania and all that great stuff. I mean, after McMahon, of course, his father started in it and such. But when he took it off and took hold of it and brought to the West Coast in the early '80s, is really what we have now is just a phenomenal, entertainment platform.
Yeah, it's almost too much. It's almost over-scripted. Everything is overdone. I feel like back in maybe, I was born in 1979. So in the 80s through the 90s, it's a totally different feel. Once it hit about 2000, maybe 2003, that's when everything started changing, and everything just feels like almost like a snowflake version of wrestling. So the WWE product, I actually don't really watch it. I watch WrestleMania because I've watched it live every year since the very first one. So I always watch that one. Aside from that, there's really not much there. And what I've noticed is I haven't really missed anything. So me not watching a show for months and months, it didn't matter. I didn't miss anything. That was not the case when I was growing up. Every week there was something new. They would have that page turner. It was a soap opera, and I would I would think, okay, well, I have to watch it next week. It's just not like that. So I'm hoping that we can talk about how it used to be, why it was so great and everything. But first thing we definitely want to start with is Gold's Gym. Gold's Gym is a big part of not only bodybuilding, but a big part of every wrestler. If there's any wrestlers out there, they've probably gone to a Gold's Gym. I still look around and I still see them. So what made you start? Let's start with this. How did you get involved with all of this, with the bodybuilding, the professional wrestling? How far back do your earliest memories of professional wrestling go?
Oh, wow. Mid-'60s, Cal Palace, Channel 2, KTVU, San Francisco, watching, my favorite was Ray Stevens, and we talked about Pat Patterson, Haystack Calhoun, Peter Mavia, Rocky Johnson, Flying Red Bastine, who was my, the first professional wrestler I ever befriended, and that goes back to the 80s. And so watching it as a kid, and the Cal Palace, in San Francisco, or so Daly City was so close. That's how it started. And, I think it was, big-time wrestling. Everybody watched it. We only had so many channels and such, but, it was a big deal. And, and I look back then, and I have not been keeping up with WrestleMania and a lot of the other stuff, but going up to when the WWF was kind of changing course in the 90s, is that, back then, I'm not saying anybody's tougher or anything like that, but, they only had so many moves, but they also weren't $1 million bodies. These guys now, these guys are branded. They got, you had it back in the 90s, lunch boxes, that, everything that they ever had out there in these guys. But, if they get hurt, they lose a card on it, something like that, they're in big trouble. Millions of dollars. So back then it was a lot different. And, some of these guys did kind of have a side job, just like in the NFL, but they were getting paid pretty well. I got in the Gold's Gym business after I had a gym in the early 80s called the Body Factory. We opened that in 1981. But prior to that, I had a love for bodybuilding. I competed in the Teenage California in 1979. I think it was 19. And prior to that, it was kind of, not saying it's ironic, but I was a decent C+ student kind of guy. But I got a D in biology. My mother flipped. And basically, it's because I was reading Muscle and Fitness magazines and Iron Man magazine and everything in high school in 1977 and not studying. But I wanted to be getting a bodybuilding, or I wanted to coach or whatever. And I ended up, San Mateo's about 90,000 people. There was one little free weight gym when I was a kid downtown in 25th Avenue. The thing was probably 800 square feet. It was like one bench press, but I saw that and I said, this is what I want to do. And come around 19. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, so you actually started your own gym called the Body Factory. Is that right?
Right. I was in the San Jose Police Academy at the time, and I had this idea before the academy, but I wanted to do it. And so there was only one freeweight gym in San Mateo at that time. There were some racquetball clubs close by in Burlingame, but nobody had a real bodybuilding type gym. So while I was in the academy on weekends, and I had a partner who worked during the week, we built this gym up called the Body Factory, very small, tiny. But we attracted a lot of people, and we started attracting, some 49ers, like, I can think. Eric Wright was one of our first members, a great defensive back, number 21 with the Niners, and we had Charlie Young, who was with the Niners after San Diego. And then I met Red Bastine in 1981. And Red Bastine, he was retired, and he was the father-in-law of the jeweler next door. But this is like a little strip mall thing. It was really small stores. So we're next door to a jeweler, and we became good friends. And Red said, I got these wrestling things going on, and I was like, this is what's coming back. And he spoke about with McMahon, and that they needed to bring it to the West Coast to make any money. That was it. Had to come back, and it did. It came right back to the Cal Palace. And I remember, so many months into the gym, I was with Burlingame PD. Gym was running pretty well. I think it was probably just off my probation or what have you. And Red drops off some tickets. The next thing I know, we're going to all the matches, and I start meeting the guys. 2 years later, we go to Foster City, 1983, where we get a franchise for Gold's Gym. Wow. As soon as we put the sign up, Greg, everybody was coming in. And that's when the wrestlers and bodybuilders, athletes, when they see a Gold's Gym back then, they knew they were getting a quality service, quality equipment. It was the standard, and the name Arnold, everybody behind it, Weeder. And all of a sudden, the wrestlers started coming in, and I got to know a lot of those guys.
So how does that work? When do they, how do they get charged when they come into your gym? Is it just because it's part of Gold's Gym, or how does that work?
Oh, we never charge. Well, no, that's up to the gyms. But, you got your memberships and daily fees. But I've never charged a professional athlete or anybody of that caliber because it drew people. It drew in other people. And, my members working out next door to Ronnie Lott or Neil Young, or Gregory Hines. Gregory Hines would come in when he was at the Circle Star, and
really?
It was neat to have. We tracked. Our gym was in San Mateo County. It was, I believe, about 600,000 people. So we had the whole full territory. So we have from Daly City, border San Francisco, down to Redwood City, right at the border of Menlo Park. that area down that way. And so it's a lot of people to draw from, and it was the biggest name in gyms at the time. So it attracted everybody there.
I want to go back a little bit to the Body Factory, to starting your own gym. How difficult was that? How much money did you have? You don't have to go into specific details, but I mean, it's one thing to think, hey, it'd be great to start my own gym. I'm sure if somebody tried it now, it'd be a lot different. I'm just trying to understand the process of how do you go from it being a good thought to actually making it happen.
It's probably the easiest business in the world to run. I've had restaurants, I've had car lot, PI businesses, light manufacturing business. But the thing with the gym is you rent a building. Back then, basically, rent a building and you buy the equipment. Now, we didn't have a lot of money, so in late 1980, when I came up with the idea. In 81, we rented from a real estate management company, and the place was only really small. Greg, I don't think it was 1,700 square feet, but it had one shower in this building. So that was a plus, having one shower. I mean, so it didn't even have water. We had to have water service come in with the tanks. But we made our equipment. We had our equipment made because we couldn't afford having the real expensive stuff in Body Factory. So we found a guy who was a real good metal manufacturer and showed him our plans. We drew everything out. But how we got the money was I was involved in a very serious motorcycle accident in 1979 up by UC Davis on a picnic day. And my buddy had lost his leg in a motorcycle accident, and we were on two separate motorcycles. A guy ran us over, and my leg was a compartment syndrome, whatever. So fast forward, I ended up with like $25,000, and I took almost all that money, and I got a partner with a few $100, and we put the gym together for about $25,000 back then. And that's how we started, and it was a learning curve, total learning curve.
And so how long from that point until you switched it up to Gold's Gym? And is it the same building, the same place, just renamed it, rebranded it? No,
Gold. We were doing pretty well. The first year was rough. My mother kept me in it. I told my mom, this really sucks. I'm not making any money. I'm a cop. I'm making good money. There's a lot of hours, and she said, stay with it. This thing's gonna work, and I did, and thank God So the next year, Gold started franchising. It was more of a licensee. You didn't pay a percentage of royalties, so it was more of a licensee. And it was $3,500 to put the name on the building, and you get a large territory. When we became Gold's Gym in 1983, we were the 24th in the world. It wasn't any. It was there. Matter of fact, there was hardly any except Ohio and most in California, and now there's over 4,200. So we were early on in the game. And we went ahead, and when we got approved for that with our plans, we found a building in Foster City, which is a city that neighbors San Mateo, where that's at, Craig. And so we found the old Levy Brothers building was about 12,000 square feet. So we went from 1,800 to 12,000 square feet. And we were so big, we walled it off, put a wall up. We did all our work then. We put our own showers in and everything back then. We couldn't afford even moving then. We got a loan for $40,000 from a friend of our parents. And I saved some money, my partner did, so we opened that for around $80,000, and we had all the equipment. We ended up teaming up with a little Nautilus facility that we were taking all their members, and they had aerobics, so they came over and we made a deal. We brought their business into our business in Foster City because they couldn't stay open because we were attracting everybody. So in Foster City is about 32,000 people, but we were drawing from about 250,000 within a few miles. And so we had aerobics. We had brand new Nautilus now. We made a great deal with these people. They ran our aerobics, and we rented the area. We rented about 2,000 square foot, put a full wall up. We rented to a Marty Makowski Taekwondo studio. So we had an A studio Taekwondo in our building. Plus we had the gym, so we drew a lot of people. We started drawing a lot of athletes. Started drawing, black belts. Everybody would come in and work out. And these Olympic athletes. I trained one of them. It was a Taekwondo person named Dana He later on. She won the gold in heavyweight women's at Taekwondo in, I think, 88. We're so proud of her. And but she won in Korea in their sport. And so we trained her. We got a little plaque from the Olympic Commission, matter of fact, back then. It was kind of neat. And that's what happened. So we went to 12,000 square feet and put the sign up, and everybody came in.
Do you still have, what was her name, Dana? So the Olympic?
Dana He. Yeah, you can look her up. Dana He, Danahee. She became a very, very big stunt woman in Los Angeles. She's a beautiful redhead, about 5'9". I trained her on and off. We trained people back then for free. We didn't have this personal trainer thing. We had a couple, Mike and Jan, people that came from the Body Factory with me that I really trusted, but there was no certification back then. People these were athletes. They've been around, they've been Division I athletes. They know how to work out. And so we let those people loose. But when it came to like the sports, like professional athletes like 49ers and Giants and Dana He and a couple other people, I would personally train myself. And it could be it could be running to working out, but Dana He did very, very well. Yeah.
And you mentioned that you had a plaque. Do you still have that plaque or a photo maybe that we could use later?
I wish I did. Back then it was listen. I had Super Bowl tickets to Stanford, the Niners Dolphins, right? And I was in charge of the reserves, so sergeant charge of reserves in a reserve program there, Foster City also. And I could have got out of it, but I gave my dad, my little league coach, and Ricky Ellison got me tickets like 40-yard line, like 6 rows up. I mean, so. There's a lot of things like I gave up back then. I knew these guys were like my friends. I'd see them. We go fishing, golf together. It was so if they had it was a game or something. Sometimes it was like, to me, it was just normal. It was really neat to be like that though. But the answer, I'm sorry to rant. The plaque, no. When I sold the gym to the family, I never saw it again, and I don't know where it's at.
Oh,
yeah. Sorry. Yeah, it's a lot of we got a lot of stuff like that, but we never. It's just a day at work. It was fun.
Sure. Yeah, I wonder where all that stuff is
I know, it'd be cool.
Do you think that there's still a Gold's Gym there where that area was, or you think it's probably long gone by now?
No, there's a long story at the end when a little family. I had sold out. I kept 1/10 of 1% because the family had divided, and you can't divide a business evenly. And I'd run off. I got out of the police department. I sold the gym. I moved to Arnold, but I kept a little percentage. And there was a family dispute that eventually, within a couple of years, they forced the gym to close, which is very sad. It was they got too big. They went out. They put 2 more Gold's Gyms up, and they just overextended themselves. And I'll tell you what, having a Gold's Gym, one of them back then, I was making as much as a gym owner working 30 hours a week as I was a cop. It was very lucrative. It was very good living back then. Yeah, it was.
Oh, that's interesting. Very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Getting back to the Gold's Gym franchise, when you decide to do a franchise, how does the franchise work? Do you have to pay Gold's Gym a certain percentage or something? How does that work with Gold's Gym?
When we were franchised, we paid $3,500 to obtain the license, and then I believe it was $3,500 next year. We were like maybe $250 every year, not much. And no, there was no royalties. They never looked at our books. We had to carry Gold's Gym apparel, which that's an automatic. I mean, they liked you to purchase about $400 to $500 a month worth of apparel, and we could. And around Christmas, we dumped that in a day. I mean, and then that's when Gold's Gym saw other ways to make money. That's when they went into Macy's. They made a fortune in Macy's in '86. I mean, Gold's Gym was everywhere. People didn't work out and come to our gyms. I mean, it was a big deal. It was like having Nike or something in there, And they did. I think now maybe there's a royalty. Back then there wasn't. Oh, they did inspect us every year though. They Pete and Paul Grimkowski are the brothers that took it from Ken Sprague, who had purchased it from Joe Gold, originally for Gold's Gym in Muscle Beach in Santa Monica, or Venice Beach. And Pete and Paul, usually Paul came up and he'd walk in, we'd have lunch, he'd look at the gym, and every couple of years they stayed on you. If you had a couple tears and a couple pieces of upholstery on some equipment, they made sure you knew it, and you should have it fixed, And so they were great.
Well, that's great to know. What was the other thing I was going to... Oh, yeah, if you're letting so many people in there free, how are you making money? I mean, I get it. I understand it, but I'm just looking at that and thinking, wow, if you're letting all these people in free, how many people are actually showing up that are being paid? And also, how much are you charging them?
Back then, okay. First, back then, when I sold the gym, we had about 1,200 members, which is pretty good back then. I mean, we came home from the body factories maybe 350. And I remember within the first year, I think we went to 800 or 900, but I think we had 1,200. Now, those were pretty much active. We didn't count 1 month, 3 month memberships. Those were yearly memberships. So the rest of it was just, we didn't put it, it was on the books. The only people that worked out for free were either my friends or family, attorneys, close people, or athletes. But, you got 1,200 members a month paying $25, $30 a month. We made money. Definitely made money. I mean, the electricity. I mean, it probably cost us $12,000 a month to run it. We might brought in maybe 20. Plus apparel, vitamins, daily workouts. Daily workouts usually would pay for weekly workouts would pay for electricity for the month. There's good money.
What is that? What's a daily workout?
Back then it was probably $5.
Okay, so they just walk in where anybody can just walk in and pay $5.
Oh, sure. Yeah. If they did come from another Gold's Gym, it was a handshake reciprocal agreement, and we never argued with it. So we get people that come from another state or other area. You let them work out free when they show their Gold's Gym card. So that was a reciprocation, but we made plenty of money.
Did you ever have any of the famous people or anything like that ever offer to pay you or anything, or offer to do anything, help you out? Or?
Oh, you know what? Neil Young used to fly his trainer up from L.A., okay? And so I didn't really charge him at first, but when I found out a couple times a week, and I'd see this guy, and he'd be in there. And Neil's a great guy. This guy was kind of a jerk, his trainer. Yeah, it's my gym. It's my gym, And this guy behind the counter on the phone or whatever. And anyway,
behind the counter. What do you mean? Like he owned the place or something?
Yeah, he did because he's training Neil Young. I mean, we love Neil Young. He's great. But he kind of anyway. So I said, I went to Neil one day. I go, this guy, I don't know, he's charging you, but I got to make some money on this thing. And he goes, that's fine. And so Neil, he paid cash right then and there. But but Gregory Hines would come in when he's at Circle Star, and I never met him either because I came in late because I was working the other job or something. But he'd be gone. There'd always be a couple tickets to Circle Star, always on the counter for whomever. And I gave those away. I don't think I ever went. But there's things like that. Yeah, a lot of bodybuilders, but a lot of the wrestlers are, they were wrestling at the Coliseum every 2.5 months or something. I mean, back then they were always out here. Oh,
that's good to know. I didn't know they were out there that frequently. That's interesting.
Back in the early days, they were because the venue. I mean, you're talking Oakland, and this is they went to Oakland, of course, after the Cow Palace. They drew so many people. I mean, the biggest wrestling fans are in the Bay Area, really. Yeah. I think. Yeah, they really do. I talk to anybody. Everybody loves wrestling.
Yeah, they might say that they loved with a D. They may not love it as much now. But, which is kind of
great. Don't you think that? I'm like I said, you're up to date more than I am. But don't you think these $1 million bodies now? I mean, I think stuff's more scripted. I think they're better athletes in a lot of ways. They're trained better and everything. The steroids, of course, is another thing that it's not any secret now what these guys have to do. But I think they're more cautious. But yet, they're flying around more maybe. But I think it's because of the value of the asset, don't you think, that the wrestling guys?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. It is a whole other world. They're all getting tested now. They can't even smoke weed anymore. They can't do all of this stuff. So the bad thing is, they may be finding ways to kind of sneak around that. But listening to these wrestling podcasts, it seems like it's a whole new world. These guys are backstage. They're playing video games. They're not, it's just a completely different vibe. I don't know. I guess that's better. Obviously, they're going to have less health problems. We kind of know because of the steroid things that a lot of wrestlers didn't make it. Even though it's probably not fair to blame steroids. I really don't really think that it was the steroids that much that was the problem. I could be wrong. I've never used them, so I don't know. But like it was more of the painkillers and things like that. Kind of how you were talking about.
Yeah.
There's no days off. If they don't show up, they don't get paid. Now it's a whole different thing. Now it's like a full-time job, which is a good thing. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it was a whole different world back then, I would think.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, they didn't I don't think they traveled quite as much. When I was I'm talking about the 60s, but when Hulk was coming up and Ricky Steamboat, S.D. Delivery Jones, I mean, before The Rock, of course. But the era I was around with B. Brian Blair and the Sheik, all those guys, Axe and Smash. There were steroids there, but I can tell you some of these guys I know didn't take steroids, and I could tell by the way they worked out, the weight they pushed, how much iron they pushed.
Wow.
Yeah, and they weren't, you know, and I mean, I'm the first to admit we did them in the 80s. I mean, pretty much Gold's Gym was in, and it was fine. We did them for a short time, and they do work, believe me, for a lot of other reasons. But you know, and my belief's always been under doctor's care, you'd be pretty careful. You could be okay. But I'm not a doctor. Anywho, these guys like B. Brian Blair, I mean, he was normal looking size guy, you know. But these other guys, like, you know, Sheik, very hard muscled. They'd work, you know, they didn't work out as much as they, you know, you watch your workouts. They weren't working out as hard as a lot of the other guys, but they'd keep their muscle on and stuff, you know.
Interesting.
Axe and Smash were just monsters. I think they're both pretty natural. They were big guys, you know. And most of them are.
Yeah, and they don't look that much different now. I saw some photos, and I've actually listened to them on some podcasts, and it's like, wow, these are some of the guys that actually made it out. They don't have health issues.
They did.
You know?
They don't have health. No, they don't. You know, and you know, they both played. I think Axe might have played in the NFL, but Smash played Barry. I got to know Barry pretty well. Played in the Canadian Football League. Most of these guys played football, and not even but most played football and wrestled.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they were already really, really good athletes. You know, I mean, Tito Santana had I think he played a season or so with Kansas City Chiefs. The Steamboat played some ball. Orndorff was with Tampa Bay as a linebacker. Jones Wonderful played, I think, at Michigan. Yeah, but that's, you know. But I agree with the painkillers. Absolutely. I asked Orndorff one time, how many days you on the road? And he come up like 292 days or something. I mean, it was over 265 days a year on the road. I mean, wrestler or not, you're on the road. I mean, that's a tough haul. You know, it's a long way to do that. I mean, so that's why they're beat up and they do that, and you know, and they get hurt. And you know, I was at that cage match with Orndorff and Piper. I was front row seat. Wow. I was 8 feet from the turnbuckle, buddy. I was 8 feet away, and I saw Piper put the folding chair over that ref's head, and that ref went down, and it wasn't fake. And that's why Piper got suspended for 2 years.
Yeah.
Okay. That's because of that incident. I think that was at the Cow Palace. It was a cage match, Greg, back then. Let me tell you, that was the match.
Was that the blue cage, or was that like the regular fence?
No, that was a steel cage.
That was
aluminum cage. Yeah. And that was the one that went up like 12 feet or something, or 15 feet in the air.
Mm-hmm.
And they go up there, climb. I mean, and the ref had to go in there. Piper, I mean, he definitely. I would say no. Rest in peace, because Rowdy, man, he was the man. But I think it was some roid rage there. Yeah, and so I remember seeing that right there. I was shocked. I disowned him right away on that. I talked to Orndorff later on. Orndorff and him never got along. Anyway.
Yeah, I wonder if Mr. Wonderful got along with any of those guys. I think now it's a whole different story, but yeah, he seemed, you know, very, because I remember Hulk Hogan was talking about him, because I guess they had both grown up. They went to the same schools, et cetera, and and Mr. Wonderful, he was basically kind of like the big bully. I don't know about, maybe bully's not the right, but the tough guy, you know, and you can totally see that in his wrestling matches too. He's a guy I would not want to mess with. I was probably very intimidated if I did see him. You know, I probably was really intimidated to go up and ask him if I could, you know, if he would sign anything for me. There were a lot of wrestlers like that, but he would definitely be one of them. He was a very intimidating guy. I didn't realize you were that close. for that match. But that totally sounds like Piper. Everything you hear about Piper, he goes into the business for himself, and man, it's just it is his world, and you just better, but on the flip side, it's like, the guy knows what he's doing. He knows how to draw money, and if you just listen to him, especially, some of these wrestlers, if you just listen to them, you're gonna you might get hurt, but the product is gonna be better, and these guys know what they're doing. Piper's history is a really, really sad one, from where he came from, how he was growing up. He got in the business, 16 years old or something like that, with the bagpipes, and got beat. He was one of the first people to actually have bagpipes or anything like that come out. And just but the guy was just a great talker. Oh yeah.
I mean, and if you look, you think about, he had a couple movies. I mean, he was before John Cena.
Yeah. He had that movie. They Live, which is still one of my favorite movies, man.
That was a great movie. Piper did a great job. He was the right guy for that movie. No, but he's like a miniature Arnold.
Yeah.
And Terminator.
It was so great. There's so many great lines there that I guess were his lines too. He made some of those lines. Chewing bubble gum and stuff like that. He was great at that.
Oh
Man. Yeah. Nothing like it.
Yeah, I know. I never met him. I don't, and I liked him as a wrestler until I saw that. That's lost respect. As far as Orndorff goes, I can tell you from the guy, being around the guys in the gym and working out with them or watching them, Orndorff worked harder than anybody with the weight.
Wow.
And you could tell. If you looked at his build, he was pretty ripped. I mean, and he pretty good. I mean, he's like, maybe just 6 foot 230, but pretty ripped. The picture I sent you shows a little bit of it. He had a girlfriend or wife. She used to come in with him, real pretty blonde. But yeah, he was pretty intense guy. But middle linebackers usually are. They are.
That's awesome. Yeah, he was great. Let's see. Okay, you also mentioned your bodybuilding. So you were interested in bodybuilding. When did that start? At what age did you? And also why? Did you see something on TV or something, or how did you get involved with that?
Yeah, probably Rocky Johnson and Rayford Johnson. Rayford, the great Olympic athlete, 68 in Mexico, I believe. He had a build, I just liked, I was into, this looks great and all that, and I did have some Charles Atlas stuff as a kid, but really it was probably the wrestling. Because there was no bodybuilding on television back then, and so it had to be the wrestling that just said, hey, I want to look like that guy, The Rock's father was just, to me it was, and I wasn't into like Glorious George. That's my parents, era. But most of these guys weren't really in great shape. I mean, a lot of them were really in great shape, but they were still great athletes. But probably that's how I got into it. Yeah, I was probably looking at those guys wrestling. That's what's
interesting. Do you know?
Never had that question asked. Yeah.
Do you know about what age that would have been?
About 12.
About 12. Did you have access to any weights or anything like that at that time, or was it just kind of like you weren't there yet?
Oh no, my buddy, my Greek buddy Angelos Spiliotis around the corner. His dad was kind of for buffed out for older guys. We were kids. Guy's probably 28. Anyway, he had a little weight set, and we'd actually ordered some Charles Atlas, little how to work out, don't kick sand in my face. And we actually, I don't know where they're at. They're worth a few bucks, but we looked at those, and it showed you how to curl. And then went into high school. I dedicated myself to weight training when I went to high school, pretty much all through. Playing sports. My first year I was a 3-sport guy: basketball, football, baseball. And then I went to baseball, football, and then just the baseball my last year. But I stayed with the weights all the way through. And I would stay with the weights all the way through till I went to college, and I never quit lifting. As a teamster, I'd work at the warehouse all day and drive at San Bruno and work at the weights. I'd work out in my parents' basement after I went in high school, and I was a busboy at the Castaway at Cowdy Point. I'd get home at midnight and go downstairs and get on the bench press. So yeah, I really used to love it.
I didn't realize you were a teamster too. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, down Van Waters. Yeah, my dad got me the job. I moved to Tahoe in '77 after high school, and then my parents had a little cabin up in Kings Beach. So he said I got to go back to school at night. I got this Teamster job. Oh, Greg, I remember it was 1977. It was probably August, September. It was like $9.75 an hour in 1977, and Teamsters gave you 100% everything benefits. That was big money back then. Yeah. It's a tough job, to get. But I got, so I did. I went to school at night, and that's what happened.
So you're just loading boxes or loading off of trucks, or what type of work as a Teamster did you do?
Oh, it was all forklift work, warehouse. But it was Van Waters and Rogers in San Jose, which is now, I think Dow McKesson purchased them years later. We had a rail hub. We'd unload. When I was a rookie there, I'd have to go and unload a whole car of like bags of lime. That was that was almost a two. Yeah, you have to take them out one bag at a time out of a rail car and stack them on a pallet on the forklift. Go stack it, come back. And I remember a rail car would be about a shift and a half. It'd be about 12 hours to do one rail car. And I'd have to do it by myself. But see, my dad was the foreman, so I really got. How working for your dad is. They're always harder on you.
Yeah. You're not getting any special treatment.
No, no. That's the first time I heard my dad say, if we cussed at home, because we're Sicilian Italian, we cussed at home, we got smacked as kids. I mean, that's the way it is. First time I heard my dad ever say the F word was at work. And you know what? Now I'm a man. He treated me like that more so, too. It's kind of like the relationship became more tumultuous in a way, but it had to be that way. I respected that. But then I transferred to the tank farm, and because I couldn't work for my dad, and they put me out there, so that was cool. It was just better. Yeah.
Well, that sounds like fun. That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's very, very fascinating. Any like childhood stories? Like, were you a bully? Did you get bullied? Especially at around that age when you started lifting. Anything like that? Like, what was the schools like growing up in that time?
Oh man, it was cream cheese, man. I mean,
really?
growing up in San Mateo, you can talk to anybody. I mean, just look at all the people. I'm not saying it's all of me and this and that, but the competition we had would make you. If you were into athletics in San Mateo at a young age, you kind of saw competition right away, and you can answer that with from Tom Brady, Lynn Swan, Jesse Freitas, Barry Bonds. We all had the same coaches in high school, okay? And so very competitive back then. Sarah High School. I mean, so you had to kind of not be a bully. I think I was kind of a bully. Maybe I was like in 7th grade, maybe 8th grade. Then I didn't grow, and it wasn't. Can't be a bully anymore. But I was a little bit tougher than I should have been. But you went after the bigger guys, and that's what happened, and to prove a point. But you did it on the athletic field too. So yeah, I was competitive.
And you got involved in sports starting at which age? Oh,
I mean, since I can remember. My dad. I got into Little League a year late. I think I got into Little League at 9. I missed the cutoff, so my dad became the coach and then played baseball. And then you go to Little League and then the Babe Ruth and high school and the American Legion. I only went as far as the American Legion ball. I pretty much hit my peak. I played with guys that went to the pros and AA and stuff like that. But everybody seemed to play sports back then up to a certain age.
And then how do you go from that into being a cop or wanting to be a cop? I don't know if I've ever asked you that. What made you want to become a police officer?
When I was in college at STEM, I actually was going to be a chiropractor. And so I was taking all the sciences and zoology, biology, and chemistry and everything. And I was doing pretty well. My buddy Nick Athens, he became the chiropractor for the 49ers. We went to grade school together all the way through high school. And he was at Palmer in Iowa, Palmer Chiropractic School in Davenport, Iowa. And he'd come back, and I was, applying, and he said it was great. He'd come to the gym and show me how to do adjustments and everything. And then I quit the warehouse right before I quit the warehouse. It was about a year before the gym, but I was looking at chiropractic. Nick was there. I was trying to digress. Oh, and so after the warehouse, I needed a job, so I became a security guard. So I started kind of riding around with the cops in San Mateo, and I just fell in love with it. I quit everything. I continued college, but I switched to administration of justice. So I go to take cop classes up there and what have you in junior college. And I became a security guard. We were armed back then. I mean, I was carrying a Lawson Cox 45 at the Hillsdale Mall in 1978, 79. I mean, it was really, and everybody, probably about 80% of the guys went off to be cops. So there was pretty good people in the security industry back then. But there was a lot of armed security details, and basically, I mean, you worked as a security guard for a couple of years back then, not shoot anybody, and you're a good guy, and you apply for a police department, you got a little college. A lot of us went off and became cops. It was just, you know, when you ride in a police car and, you know, there's hot calls and skidding around and lights and sirens, it kind of overshadows just going to sit in the office and, you know, just backs all day. It kind of the excitement that grabbed me was being a cop.
Interesting. Okay, getting back to the Gold's Gym. So you're working at, or you're actually owning Gold's Gym. Who's running the day-to-day things at the Gold's Gym? And the same question with the whole body, with the body factory. Because if you're a cop, obviously you can't run the day-to-day. So who's taking care of that?
My partner Chet Meck, great guy, super guy. I had a great partner, and he had quit his job. He was in the collections business, and so he ran the day-to-day stuff. And I would come in. I was at my gyms every day, even work or not. I'd drop by, or I'd be in there, or whatever. But I worked. You know, I still put in 20, 25 hours a week, even as a full-time cop. But the thing was, in Foster City, the police department was only a mile, maybe just barely a mile from the gym. And I actually had purchased a townhouse right across the street from the police department. So I didn't have to go real far to do anything. And I would go by and on duty, and I'd walk in and say hi to people. So I was around there a lot. So a lot of day off work, but it was a lot of fun.
All right. And I'm sure a question that everybody here is wondering about, was there any drama, any problems that ever happened at the gym where you had to kind of step in? I know you mentioned the Neil Young thing, but aside from that, any other problems or any other drama where you kind of had to step in and kind of, you know, get people back in line? Yeah,
I mean, I can only remember one time I tossed a guy out. He didn't have collars on. 315 pounds, so I think it was 3 plates. It might have been 4, but for sure 3 plates on the squat rack, and he didn't have collars on it. And he came off a little bit wacky, and one side just started to move, and then the other side. And I'd just been walking by, and I looked, and I see the bars are 95 pounds, right? So you got 100-some pounds, 150 pounds or so. Let's say 325, yeah, 325. So you got 3 plates going off on one side. When it flips over with the other weight, that bar hit the ground, and it went up about 7 feet in the air, and it went right through the ceiling of the gym. And then it came down. And I flipped, and I just said, "You're out of here." I think probably we had a problem with the guy before, but, I mean, somebody could have got killed right there. We did have a cop, friend of mine, Tom Eshu, who was doing some hack squats, and he had an aneurysm and almost died in my gym. I remember that. But no, as far as problems go, none. It was really great. Great membership. It was like a family in there.
Oh, that's awesome. So there was nobody that ever really got hurt or anything like that you know of?
No, we had a couple little lawsuits of people that did some funky things that we found that they were kind of set up, because there's so many witnesses in there. This guy, you talk to 4 people and go, no, that guy was doing this and that. But, you know, any business like that, there's a liability when you're pushing around weights and iron. Things can happen. People do, you know, there'd be some little light injuries, maybe a little cut on the finger or something. But there was no physical problems or any jerks in there, really. It was great.
Never had any sexual harassment issues or anything like that, where, you know, anything that got out of...
Oh, no. I'm sure they got them now. Yeah, I mean, no, back then, no. I mean, we had people get married out of there. People, you know, I was in the gym business for like 7 years, and, you know, so from the body factory up to, I mean, actually to about 89, people, yeah, I mean, good friends, and people meet up, and we had married. Yeah, it was neat. You know, people started working out. It's just, you know, they called the gyms. They were the bars of the 80s. People were going to bars, but the gyms were the new bar. You know, people, that's where they hung out.
They went from the gym, and then they hit the bar scene maybe later on, or?
Well, no, they did that. But I mean, as far as the gathering places to meet people and such, the gyms were they call it the bar of the 80s. Yeah, that would be the place to hang out if you wanted to meet single people or do whatever. Be the gym. So the gym did a pretty good thing back. Yeah.
Have you been to the 24-hour fitness centers now or anything like that lately to kind of see like how different it is maybe from back when you owned a Gold's Gym? Have you noticed any difference aside from the masks and the diapers that people wear on their faces, which is weird? I don't understand that, especially if you're at a gym. That makes absolutely no sense. You're really damaging your health, I would think.
Oh my God, I can't imagine. I mean, I would work. I'd get a couple dumbbells and run, stay at home. I wouldn't even go in a gym. And I haven't been in a gym. I haven't been in a gym maybe in 7 or 8 years just to look around. I kind of burned out on the whole thing. I even put up a couple of gyms up in Northern California years later. I've been involved in several other gym construction or whatever. But what I can see the biggest thing is a lot more cardio equipment. A lot more. I mean, we had I'm trying to think. We maybe had we had one treadmill and 2-3 bikes back then, and people use them, but now they got the elliptical machines, and they're great. I think they're fantastic. But I'll tell you what, when they break or go down, it's a fortune, and they do. I mean, you're talking machines that are anywhere from commercial-wise from $6,000 to $15,000 a piece.
Wow.
And so it adds up. But that's the biggest thing. And you still see free weights. You see a lot of selectorized equipment like I carry in or Flex or what have you, plate stacks, cable machines.
Mm-hmm.
It's gotten better. I mean, equipment, I think, there's only so much you can do with a pulley and some cable and some weights. But, I saw how equipment evolved, definitely. And Nautilus was a big name, and it was stuff I'd say was overpriced because we couldn't afford it, but that stuff probably was the best at the time would be just a straight Nautilus equipment. But mostly cardio, and you see a lot more with exercise balls and little apparatus like that.
Did you ever get any complaints at your gym from famous people that weren't paying anything or from paying customers? Any complaints that kind of stand out that you can think of?
Yeah, there's always, usually a complaint was, it's really minor. Anyway, if you run a sale, like a pre-summer sale, like 3 months for like $100 or whatever we did, somebody would come in like, a week later and said, we usually give it to them, not a month later, but something like that, or, because memberships are a funny thing, I got out of the business, because I was tired of it and I made some money to get out, but that's when the Fast Freddy car guys would come in. They bring these sales teams in, and they put them in the office. We did all of our membership sign-ups out front, not in a little locked office and all this horse shit, excuse my language, like you're selling some guy, a used Volkswagen. And so when the Fast Freddies came in, and that's when my brother took it over and he ran into the ground. That they brought these sales teams who never even worked out in their life. You gotta have I went into that business for a love of the business, man. I was passionate about the gym business. I mean, there's nothing more important in my life at that time was the gym business, because like I said, it was a family, but it was people come in, they're giving you money to lift metal. Are you kidding me? It's like eating a meal or getting your car serviced. They're giving you something, and this stuff lasts forever in there. And so I felt that it was an honor for them to come into my place. But as far as all the other stuff, it was pretty simple.
Well, that's good. Anybody ever complain about the equipment there, the quality of equipment or anything like that? Or did you ever get any praises about what equipment that you have there, or is that just not even relevant back then?
Oh, it's very relevant. I mean, that's like I said, when the Gold's Gym did their yearly inspection, I remember about the 4th year they were talking about we got to probably get rid of half the stuff we have, and we did on some of it, but it's kind of like if you go into a Kentucky Fried Chicken, McDonald's, it's all the same menu, pictures, it's all SOP. Mm-hmm. And with Gold's Gym, there's so many different equipment companies and everything. And as long as it was up to standard, we did get complaints because it would be like, oh, this is not working right or something. Maybe need it fixed. We fix it. Or I went to this other Gold's Gym. They have this and this. Why don't you have it? You have to talk to them. But other than that, not really. Equipment was praised, and there was always a couple of complaints on some things. But overall, it was the best equipment on the peninsula because of our Nautilus and everything else. And we were early in the game. To go in the Gold's Gym now, I don't know. God, it would have cost maybe $500,000 just in equipment to do it. Yeah, it would be very expensive.
Was there any competition, any competitors? I know you've mentioned that, but that was one of my questions that I had. Did you have any competition in that area? I would say not including the company that you bought out.
Oh, right. Yeah, we had Family Fitness Center right across the highway. And it had racquetball. It was wall bangers, and it was when racquetball was really popular. And so they took some members. And then 24-hour Family Fitness became 24-hour Nautilus, I think. Yeah, I think that's what it became. Anyway, Family Fitness Centers became pretty big. I think maybe Bally's or somebody bought them out. They were competition. They had a guy named Joe Romeo that ran the place. He was a good gym guy over there. But they were, if serious workouts came to us, racquetball and some other stuff, designer stuff went to them. As far as equipment goes, we were far superior. They were mostly selectorized equipment. But like I always told people, is racquetball. I mean, you got 2 to 4 people at the most can play on a court in the walls. Let's say it's one building. The building's $250,000 to build, let's say, or $180, $200 back then. You got 4 people can play on it. I get $200,000. I'll take that building and fill it full of equipment. I'll get 500 members in there instead of 4 guys. You see what I mean? To me, it was never feasible. I never want to be that kind of gym. But with the Burlingame Athletic Club, Burlingame is right next door, and the San Francisco racquetball clubs, and those they would have everything. There is swimming pools, and they had that in San Mateo years earlier with Claire Stearns, and he had a big gym. He was an old-time bodybuilder down there in Southern California. He put one up there, and that went out in about 70s because the indoor pool cracked. It was rotted, and so they went out of business. But there was really no competition.
Interesting. That's good to know. Let's see. Only got a few more questions here for you. Who is the nicest wrestler, and who is the worst wrestler that you had to deal with, or that your Gold's Gym ever had to deal with? Iron Sheik used to come in quite a bit. He just wasn't friendly. It was just kind of, and he got his free workout, but he wasn't, he wasn't congratulatory or just, he wasn't really, I thought, a nice guy. But the rest of them were great. As far as hanging out, I probably hang out with Tito Santana the most. After matches, we go out and eat or have a drink. I was with him in a hotel room over in Oakland when his wife was, I think, going to South Carolina. She's having her baby. So, I mean, it was kind of neat. We went out and we had a few pots. It was kind of neat. Most of them were great guys. Ricky the Steamboat. I mean, just everybody was really nice guys. But I'd say Tito, as far as being the nicest, if you just met him on the street, would be Tito Santana. So how does that work? You go to the wrestling show, or do you just meet them after the wrestling show and go out and have drinks? How does that work?
You know what? I didn't go out with them that much afterwards. These guys are tired. And I saw them that. Usually if they were wrestling, let's say this. If they were in town, usually there'd be a few of them that come over. Sometimes it'd be 5 or 6 come to the gym at one time. Sometimes they would straggle in. And if they were in town, it was always tickets, or I had tickets left for me there. I didn't go through their dressing rooms. I'd never been in their dressing rooms, I could say, probably not. And we just say, I'm going to be at, Holiday Inn or something tonight or whatever. I'll see you there. I'll just go in there and sit down and just eat. I mean, it was that kind of thing. I was only with Tito because his wife's having a baby, and he said he want to hang out, and it was kind of cool like that. But most of the time it wasn't really anything but the gym and a little bit after words, and it was fun, And they would all be sitting together. I mean, I remember Tito was wrestling. I think it was Tito and Ricky wrestling the British Bulldogs. Yeah, I think that's what it. I think one of them sat down with us, and it was just regular guys, It's kind of neat.
and you guys would sit down at the Holiday Inn, or was there?
A lot of times Emeryville. I seemed like that hotel in Emeryville. They stayed at a lot. I remember that. Okay. And then there was sometimes it would just be Denny's,
Yeah, I was at the Cow Palace. I'm trying to think of what year, maybe 2018, and it was the first time. That was for another wrestling company. There's a Japanese wrestling company, and they're kind of branching out. They're probably the largest company outside of the WWE. So I've pretty much followed them. NJPW, New Japan Pro Wrestling, I believe is the best product that is out there, the best wrestling product that is out there right now, bar none. The absolute best. They've been doing live shows. They have people in their crowds, et cetera, et cetera. But we were out there in 2018 for my brother-in-law's bachelor party. And and we were at the Cow Palace, and I was like, this place has not changed that much since I was a kid. So I don't know if you ever will get a chance to go out to the Cow Palace. I don't know what you could even see out there, but yeah, it was like, wow, I felt like I was stepping back, into 1986, 1987, back in the good old days. They still have the same pictures up, the same Hulk Hogan picture, all the
really? No
stuff.
Kidding.
Yeah, they still have
wow.
Stuff up. So it was really, really cool. You could, we were still smelling weed, and we could still see that people were smoking weed and all that stuff. So it was like, okay, there's still those loud people in the upper stands yelling at every wrestler, just bashing them and stuff. And it was like, wow, it really felt like I was way back then. So it really hasn't changed that much. I don't know what it's like now. It's probably going to be all different now, but that was just fascinating. Those were some really good times. There's nothing like that. And obviously the Cow Palace in 2018 felt smaller because I was a lot bigger than I was back in the 80s. But those were some really good times. So I really enjoyed wrestling, man. I've always been a good fan.
It was great. You remember also with roller derby there, Joni Weston. They had they had that, and then I remember we used to go see the Harlem Globetrotters there. Didn't
they have monster truck rallies there too? Did they do that there, or was that in Oakland?
Everything. I think they had everything there. I haven't seen everything there, but I remember anytime the Globetrotters were in town, or we'd go up and watch maybe some of that roller derby every once in a while. Roller derby, I'll tell you, that's as tough as wrestling. I think those guys, those gals, wow. You look at some of those those people got hurt. I'll tell you. God, we had it going on. We had wrestling and roller derby. What else do you want to do? It's physically demanding, but those were really, really, really good days. And the sad with the deaths, I really believe most of it is attributed to painkillers and alcohol more than the steroids. I really do, because these guys are injured. They really do. They get hurt.
Yeah. It's really sad, and I know the whole steroid things help them. Did you see a lot of this steroids? Did you ever see any of that in your gym, or do people just kind of know to keep that out and not even, talk about that? About that, but they're not shooting up in your gym or anything like that.
No. Anything like, if I saw that, the guy's gone. Plus, I was a cop, a lot of guys took steroids back then. There was some illegal stuff, but I'm not gonna name names, but I'm playing. Sure. Guys took them. People, there wasn't a big thing, and there was no Major League Baseball or bonds involved. And these guys, you can being around the gym business, you can look at somebody, pretty much know they're on the roids. But it was prevalent. Everybody was taking them back then. John Madden came out like 1979. He was like the first guy saying, if you're playing an offensive line against, Cowboys D line, and if you're not taking them, you're gonna lose that battle. It's the way it is. It puts butts in the seats. Major League Baseball knows that. There's a whole other thing with it. I can tell you early on is when I had my first gym, the Body Factory, I got a call from Dr. Scott Connolly. He's an endocrinologist at Stanford, and he also owned the Ironworks in Santa Clara County. And he wanted to pass an ordinance because the Stanford football players were starting to abuse the steroids. So he tried to get a city ordinance passed in Palo Alto. And, of course, it didn't go through. But I went down and met with him for about 4 hours. We had dinner and everything. He was like the metrics spokesperson on TV. But he's probably the most authoritative person on anabolic steroids in the nation at the time. And he sat down and he said, well, I'm going to tell you in the next 2 hours you can know more than a doctor coming out of medical school. And he was right. Wow. So I became kind of an expert on that stuff. I was around the gym and everything. I admitted to taking them. I didn't have any problems, but a lot of guys did. And I had guys, it was sad, I had guys, members, I mean, they would get huge. I mean, you could see the difference, even though I'd be gone for like a week or something. And the guy would come to me and goes, last night I was bleeding out of my ears. I'm like, wow, hey, and I'd ask him, what are you taking? And I'd tell him, get off that, don't do this and that. And that's how it was back then. It was open, yet it was closed. Gold's Gym didn't bother anybody about it, but it's what drove the franchise. I mean, guys are going to go look at skinny guys working out, and they're not going to go watch wrestlers that weigh 150 pounds. And Dr. Scott Connolly's narrative is that if I take blood, he was going to take blood from the players every week, watch their HDLs, LDLs, their bilirubins, liver tox counts, things like that, and adjust their diets would be perfect. And under the perfect scenario, you'd probably be okay. Okay, that's, and I kind of believe that. I mean, I know a lot of guys that took them and got out, they're fine. It's the long term, like anything, the abuse, the moderation, if not, and they got more designer. They probably got safer in some ways. But if you read, Death in the Locker Room and some books like that, and how the Dynaball was invented in Germany in the 1930s, and the doctor, Schultz, I think his name was, he said when he invented it, he said, I created a Frankenstein's monster, and he said that. Yeah, so, yeah, and it goes totally through Lance Armstrong and this and that, and then the growth hormone came out, Greg, which was really scary because the growth hormone wasn't synthetic. It was derived from the pituitary of the rhesus monkey. And it mainly is for dwarfism and kids and bone plates won't grow, things like that. And so it's and it was hard to get even then. So bodybuilding started absorbing that source and supply. And there was a kind of ethical thing back then. But I've seen guys, and I know guys personally that took growth hormone, and they get agromelia, which is what Lurch had on the Addams Family. He had agromelia. That's where your bones, your forehead, your hands. Guys' hands, their little finger looks like a big toe. I mean, and it's sad, and it's irreversible. And so now with the synthetic growth hormone, it doesn't quite do that. And if people are getting older, taking it for testosterone level, things like that, and I think it's okay. I've researched that a little bit with the synthetic stuff. But the stuff from the rhesus monkey back then, plus, you were getting something that wasn't filtered. Really. I mean, there were some things that came with it. But that's how, when it went from the steroids, went to the growth hormone for a while. And that was interesting.
Yeah, that's a big point. That reminds me of Chris Benoit. And I know there's a lot of people that kind of think, oh, he was taking these hormones, taking all this stuff, and that's why he killed his his wife and killed his son. I'm not convinced that Chris Benoit really killed his wife or killed his son or anything like that. But what you said right there just totally triggered some of that research that I've been doing. Maybe one day we can do a whole show on that. Because it sounds like you're very knowledgeable on the whole steroid, the growth hormone thing. I didn't know that it came from a monk. That's crazy to me. That whole thing is nuts.
Yeah, Benoit. I mean, that was one of the saddest things. We talked about with Owen Hart that fell. That was Owen, but with Benoit, I mean, that was totally. I mean, McMahon took a rash on that one, man. I mean, and the guy, and that's wrestling. I mean, it's almost like with CTE, with the NFL. I think there's gonna be starting to be more claims out. I mean, now they make money and stuff, but these guys are a product for McMahon's. And that's fine. Business is fine. Corporations are fine. Everything, but there's a point where I think McMahon. Look at McMahon. He used roids.
Yeah.
The guy's pretty good shape, man. He's still
working out.
I know. I mean, he used roids. He knows guys are using roids. I mean, he knows that. And the thing about the steroids too, you got anabolic and you got high androgens and low androgens, but they do heal you up very fast. And with the wrestlers taking them and the pain and everything, the steroids, if you break something or pull something, it's healed up a lot faster, and that keeps them on the road.
Sure. Has your view changed on steroids? Has it changed from when back in the 80s or 90s? Has it changed when you look at it now?
No, I think it's individual decision. Back then, like I said, it's a misdemeanor. Now it's a felony to possess them without a prescription. I don't even know how they're prescribed except for certain things. But I don't know if there's more of it. Probably just because there's more people and it's just the way it is. But no, it hasn't changed. I mean, people put stuff in their bodies. I think it's certain. I'm not saying legalize drugs or anything, but there's reasons for steroids. And look at it. Look at the NFL now. It enhances careers. It has some good size to it. But my views really haven't changed on that. If you talk about meth or other drugs, yeah, I think after you look back I admit I've tried everything in the world at one time. I think except certain things. But I tried stuff. It was the way it was back then. And thank God I didn't get hooked. A lot of people did, I feel bad. But anybody, I'm an addicted personality. I could have got hooked. I guarantee it. Not on steroids, maybe a cocaine thing, or maybe something triggers me to get into alcohol more or something. But the steroids I never found really addicting. Mm-hmm. Physically addicting. I think that goes with the mental side, if you know what I mean. It's not like I need them. I'm going jonesing and stuff. It's more like, man, I got to look a little bigger, and it plays on the mind more, and then it plays, and then it changes. I know methanoids are bad, but the steroids change your hormones. Hormones run your whole body, and when you put all this synthetic, testosterone in, your own testosterone starts to decrease and starts to go down, and then your progesterone and estrogen, your female hormones start to come up a little bit, and then you kind of get off that steroid. You don't come off it right, and then that estrogen or progesterone starts coming up, and then they get gynecomastia, which is the term of bitch tits, where the men's nipples protrude. Yeah, I know guys that got those cut out. Yeah, the mammary glands grow, and like with a female, it's not. With a male, it's reversible, pretty much. Female, I've seen females that took steroids. That just doesn't. You know what? That doesn't. It's not saying right. It's reversible, but what it does to them is catastrophic almost. Their voice box changes. They get Adam's apple. Everything else, and not being reversible almost in any way whatsoever is what's sad. Yeah. So I think if anything, if steroids would change my attitude of whatever, it's women using them. That's what I'd say.
Yeah. Very interesting. Okay, my friend, I want to wrap this up here. Last question here that I have for you. Let's see. Okay, so as far as wrestling, do you remember your last wrestling experience, or do you remember the last time that you watched wrestling? I'm trying to get a sense of that, because I know many people were like, yeah, I used to watch that. That's why I always use that loved with the D. It's like a lot of people used to watch it. I'm always curious about, when did you stop watching it, and was it just because just other things, you became a bounty hunter, because you were doing other things? Like, do you, if you were put on the spot, I'm going to put you on the spot, when was the last time that you remember watching wrestling, and why?
You know what? The last time, I've seen some stuff on television, but I don't tune into it, so I could say within the last couple of years I've seen some. Definitely went years without seeing it because of other things. When I got out of the gym business, really, was the last time I went to a match, which pretty much was maybe one of the last times I watched. I've seen SmackDown a couple times. I'll watch it. I've seen it pay-per-view at a friend's house, but it's probably my buddy wrestled. They needed a fall guy. Somebody didn't make it, and he was George. This guy at Gold's Gym, a little bit taller than me, not as built or big, but knew wrestling like nobody's business. He's like you, expert. He got his chance to wrestle, and I forget who he wrestled. I think it was B. Brian Blair, because they had to kind of size him up. And he was called the South City Kid, and they put a hood over him. And he got to go up there, and because Red called me at the gym. He goes, I need a guy. And I no kid, because every once in a while they'd call, and I wouldn't have a guy, because they'd go to us, because we got guys that are built, right? And George get $500. And that's the last match I think I saw, was when he went up there and wrestled. I think that one was at the Cow Palace, I think, because they went back and forth sometimes. Anyway, that's the last time I really watched a match live. That's probably 1987, 88, something like that.
Awesome. Well, I think one of these days we're going to have to just watch a wrestling show and do a little live commentary and get your thoughts, get your views on it. But, but thank you for joining us for another episode of the Greg Fernandez Jr. podcast. And we are chatting here with Stephen Sanzeri, and he's definitely going to be a big part of this podcast and a part of our Gray Stage podcast too. Any final words here before I shut this down?
I mentioned my book there, Ultimate Prey, the Yosemite case, so some people might get a little bit more of a handle of how I roll. So that's on Amazon.
Tell us about that book.
Oh, it's the Yosemite murder case, Sightseer murder case in 1999, and I was a bounty hunter and I had a bail bond business, and I chased a guy around that was tied into the case, and I dealt with all sorts of screwy things with the FBI and everybody else, and I wrote a book about it. And so it's called Ultimate Prey on Amazon. That's pretty much what happened with that.
Yeah, and people can buy that book directly from Prime or from there. You can get the physical book. You did a nice sizzle reel that I thought was really awesome too. That has really helped me when we're talking about other cases. Just that sizzle reel, I'm like, man, we need to get that on there. I don't know if there's a way to get a link to your Prime, for when people see this book, that if they're not sure if they should buy this book, if they see this sizzle reel that you've created, it really, I really think it's a good teaser, and it just will help people think, yes, you should buy this book. And it's $9.99, it's $10. I mean, and it is a great book, and I do hope one day that it is made into a film. That's what I really hope one day. Anyways.
I'm a former police officer out of the Bay Area, and I became a bail bondsman. And you do your own bounties, and I bailed this guy out of Tuolumne County, California, and it was right when the 1999 Yosemite murders, Sightseer murders, occurred on Valentine's weekend. And so I bailed this guy out, and he jumps on him, and I start chasing this guy, and the FBI can't find the girls, and then they find them murdered a month later, and another one murdered a month later after that. And so I chased this guy all around the country to Alabama, and I arrested him. And it's about the FBI, how they tried to, have me stop my case and everything. And this guy became the #1 manhunt in Alabama, and that was just the beginning. And so I worked with the family to try to prove there was others involved. There wasn't one person. And so that's what it's about. But it has a backstory. About 5 years earlier, I was indicted as a bounty hunter and looking at state prison, and it was set up, and we proved it. And so it was my second time with the biggest murder case in the nation. And so that's what happened, and I'm proud to say, I told Greg I can't name it, Rick, but I just shot a three-part documentary, not all of it, about the Yosemite case, and we did some shooting in Yosemite and Modesto 2 months ago. And so I'm maybe one of the 3 platforms coming up, and probably in January. So the book kind of led to a documentary, and it's about first one about one guy, Cary Stayner, didn't do it alone. So there's a question with that. So it's an interesting story.
Oh, for sure. I would love to get you on as a guest to talk about this.
Sure. Yeah, and it goes also, just so you know, Rick, look up Mark Archuleta and National Coalition for Men and his murder up there in Mariposa just recently. And he just had a case, and it was a conservatorship, and Ronnie or Jerry Cox was just on Dr. Phil. Mariposa has been a very corrupt county, and it goes all the way up to the White House. And then there's In's Law, and when Hillary Clinton was with Rose's Law Group, how it led to Mariposa with the Contras, and a lot of the first cocaine in the 70s and early 80s was distributed out of Yosemite Park. There's a big history up there. Yeah, so I didn't know when you go into that there, Rick. It leads into before that. And when the Queen of England was up there, and 3 Secret Service guys were killed, and Mariposa was involved in that. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff on that. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Real quickly, great video on YouTube. Type in Mariposa corruption and look at. There's a video for 20 minutes. 2020 went in there, and Tom Jarrell and Hugh Downs and everybody did a special about it and how it's all controlled with drugs and everything, and that's on YouTube.
All right. And what's it called on YouTube again? I'm bringing it up right now.
Type in Mariposa corruption, and you'll see probably see a thumbnail that says Ketty Lodge or something on there. You'll see a guy, kind of a heavyset guy in a blue shirt. That's 20-minute video, and 2020 went in there when they found all this out, how corrupted it was, and that's what led to my case and the Yosemite case, and it's still going on. And they murdered this attorney. By the way, Mark Archuleta was killed in Crestview, right? At his home. When he answered the door, a guy gunned him down. A week later is when the son of Judge Salas was murdered in New Jersey, when Salas just took the Epstein accounting part of the mediation. So he said it was the same, and then they found him dead in his cabin up there from suicide. So it was the same shooter in a UPS on the train and went back and killed Judge Salas' son, wounded the husband. She wasn't there. So that's how Mariposa is related. And that's a fact. They say it was the same guy. Why did Mark Archuleta get killed the day after day before there was going to be a hearing? So it's a big deal. It's pretty heavy.
I'm going to definitely watch this.
Yeah, check it out. But anyway, I don't mean to rant for you, but it gives you a lot of information.
No, not a problem at all. I really look forward to getting you on my show and discussing this.
Sure.
I'm going to read the book and stuff. I think it'll be an amazing interview.
Oh, well, thank you. Anytime, just give me a day's notice or so.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that too. There's so much there. So I guess we can go ahead and shut this one down for now. I feel like there was something else I wanted to mention. Rick, let us know where people can find your channel.
Okay, yeah, you can just find me on YouTube. Just look under Crypt Rick's I've Been Thinking, and if you bring up that page, you will definitely find me, and it's basically, it's all in the title, stuff I think about.
Right on.
Doing a lot of interviews. I'm doing stuff on cryptocurrency. Teaching people all about crypto, right from its origins, and we're kind of building it up slowly to build people up. Doing some interviews with Greg and Catherine and a couple other people.
Cool.
Really cool site. You'll really enjoy it. It's a great site, guys.
Oh, yeah, sounds good.
Oh, Greg's got it up. There you go. You're on the ball there today, Greg.
There it is, right there. Yep. and I know you have a lot of stuff coming out, too.
For sure.
And you're working on a podcast? Are you working on getting the podcast going again? Or?
Well, yeah, I'm going to have to talk to you about, I want to start uploading up to my Anchor account like you do. So I just need help from you to teach me how to do that. But I definitely want to start doing that again and doing my Anchor podcast that I used to do.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Here's what I wanted to add. Okay, Stephen, check this out. Rick is I don't know if he's a current wrestling fan or whatever, but I know he was a manager with a local wrestling. So Rick's in Canada, so we know Canada has some of the greatest wrestlers ever, obviously.
Oh my God, yes they do.
But so Rick, Stephen has some great wrestling stories that I have not released yet. I need to put that out there.
Oh, you didn't? Oh my God, you didn't release? I didn't try to look for it, but yeah, that was a fun interview.
Out there, yeah. I'm curious. I'm wondering if I should put it out on this channel, or if I put it out on a different channel. But yeah, so there's a lot to talk about there.
Yeah, you got to put it out.
I know.
Hey, so did you manage up there or what?
Yeah, just for it was professional wrestling, but it was in my town, my town. It was
cool.
So I a lot of up and coming wrestlers that were learning, and then I got the bright idea I wanted to be a manager. I don't know where that came from. I've always been a wrestling fan. Because of my disability, I could never be a wrestler, so I was like, well, I can be a manager. So that's where my whole name came from, Crypt Rick. That's all its origins go back from wrestling. And to how I got the name, I don't even know if I've told this story, but when I first got my name when I wanted to name myself, the teacher of the school that I was managing for said you have to come up with a name, and I wanted to go Crip Rick as cripple, because I feel I just call myself a cripple because I'm crippled. So they're like, you cannot use that in your title. That is going to get people really upset. So then I had to break it down to Crypt. So they said, well, instead of C-R-I-P, Crypt Rick, spell it C-R-Y-P-T. And that's how I got my name, Crypt Rick.
That's cool. That's better, man. That's dark. I like it.
I like it better now too. It was, I get why they didn't want me to go the other way, but they're like, you can't say that. You're going to get people that are disabled upset, and I'm like, I am disabled.
Yeah, but it's better branding for you. It covers a lot of bases. Crypt, it's like, Tales from the Crypt, man. That kind of stuff. That people want that. It's better branding. That was a good decision.
Yeah,
I don't know, Rick. I think I like Cripper Straw better.
Well, yeah, Crip Straw, I know. That's my little dance I got to come up with. And, yeah, Crip Straw.
You gave a good visual the last time. You should have seen what was going on in my head. It was hilarious.
And that's where even the logo there that you see on my that zombie logo was drawn for my merchandise that when I was a manager. I had T-shirts made and stuff like that. So I actually had a graphic artist draw me that up. So
Okay, I want your coffee cup, though. You have to do more of those. I will buy one as soon as you get it.
I will do. I'm already setting it up. I'm taking your advice.
Good.
Me too. I'm in there. So Rick, so Stephen was, he had his own gold skin. He was a lot of those wrestlers, not just wrestlers. There were a lot of professional people that went through there, but a lot of the wrestlers would actually go there, and they would train. So he's got some awesome stories, and I do need to get that out there, definitely.
Yeah, I met a few famous. We had a lot. Our local one kind of got on TV, as you saw, Greg. I sent you videos. We got on TV for a couple of years, and then we started bringing in some of the bigger wrestlers, but the older ones, like nothing like that was current. We had like the badass Billy Gunn. We had Mick Foley.
Yeah, they're current, man.
Yeah, we had oh my God, the guy for ECW that was really hardcore. He was like the champion and stuff. Like, I can't remember his name, but you
guys had Nick Foley. Nick Foley was big in the WWF.
Oh, for sure, yeah. He was.
Nick Foley was great. I like
really
Nick Foley.
Really nice guy.
Yeah.
But the guy's scary looking though.
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Oh, X-Pac. I met X-Pac. I met him.
Great. Yeah.
So I met a few of the big guys, but it's definitely a different world in the wrestling world. Like, it's even at a local level that I was on, like seeing the behind the scene politics and stuff like that. It was really eye opening.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, Greg, with the interview, I told Greg, I talked about when Red Bastien approached me in my first gym in 1981, 82, and said they're bringing back the World Wrestling Federation and this and that, and pretty soon, and he brought it back from McMahon to the West Coast, and it was at the Cow Palace at first, and it went to the Coliseum, and I started getting free tickets. The guys came in, and so it was a really just a wonderful, colorful time for me. And these guys would come in, and they were in there, 3 or 4 months, Greg, I guess, to the West Coast there. And, I went to the Coliseum. I got my broke nose in the parking lot we were fake wrestling, and my buddy broke my nose in the parking lot because we're like 30 years old. I hadn't seen the guy in like 10 years with high school together, right? He throws an elbow, and then the nurse is there, saw my nose, and her husband said he was going to see you. My brother took me to the doctor, hospital, 1 in the morning, and my nose. So, that's what it was. I mean, those are wonderful times, man. I really covet that when I really got into it early, just watching it grow.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Were you ever a wrestling fan, Catherine?
No.
Okay. You don't like heavy metal. You don't like heavy metal. You don't like wrestling.
Well, no. Okay, I am sorry. When I'm sitting there and I'm watching these guys supposedly taking them up and throwing them on a mat, and they're jumping, and you see the elbow hitting the freaking mat, and they're like, oh, and I can't. I just can't.
Catherine, what's your thoughts on somebody throwing you into the ropes? If the big powerful dude throws you into the ropes, are you going to run back to him, or are you going to keep running?
Who? What? Run that? What was that? If somebody threw me in the ropes, I'd go right back after him.
Oh, would you? Oh, okay.
I would, dude.
Hey, you know what? Hey, Greg.
I might ask him to do it again because it looks kind of fun to fly.
Hey, Greg. All I can say is I told you I was at the Piper Orndorff cage match 3 feet away when I saw the Piper put the folding chair over the ref's head, and that was real. And so, wrestling's real, and I don't care anybody says. And you know what? Orndorff told me one time he was on the road 275 days 1 year wrestling. Your body is going to get beat up, man. Wow, 275 days a year wrestling. Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
My God, these guys. Oh.
Yeah, they do take a beating. Those guys, like they may be.
Oh my God.
But their bodies, I've seen what they can go through. Like they take a beating.
Oh, they do. It's worse than the NFL, man.
Gymnastics and tumbling does put a hard thing on it's
not tumbling. These guys are 280 pounds hitting each other like linebackers. That's not tumbling. And you know what?
You know what it reminds me? Hold on. You know what it reminds me of? Remember the time when Geraldo was being a smart ass to somebody, and then the guy turned and decked him and broke his nose on TV? I was like,
knowing what I know about Geraldo now, I kind of support the guy who broke his nose.
Oh yeah, right? Oh, it was like,
sure, yeah.
Because wasn't that what he was doing? Wasn't he saying wrestling was fake, so the wrestler just decked him with a chair or something, broke his face? And I'm like,
a couple times, that's
Hey, Greg, I never asked you, man. That movie with Mickey Rourke was good, The Wrestler, wasn't that, Greg?
Yeah, Yeah. That
was a good. You know what? That was pretty real, Greg. You know.
Yeah. I mean that was a great movie. I thought it was based on Hulk Hogan. It turns out it was based on Jake the Snake Roberts.
It was.
That's another guy that I met. He's a cool guy too.
Yeah, he's awesome now.
So. Oh, Jake the Snake.
Yeah,
he's been through.
Oh, Jake the Snake, man, he was the best, man.
He could have been Hulk Hogan. Like he could have been. I don't know. People say, he could have been so much more. But when you think about it, like the way that Jake the Snake talks, where he talks low, so you kind of listen a little bit more, and like he kind of taught me that. Like when I started doing videos and started doing podcasts, I was speaking really low purposely. To kind of let people know, hey, if you want to really listen to what I'm saying, you better actually listen to what I'm saying.
And you know what that does?
Look into my eyes.
You want to punch your lights out and walk away. Right? It's evil mind. I can't. And okay. The reason why is because a lot of women pull that shit, and they'll go like, and I'm just like, either speak up or shut the fuck up.
Oh, I love it, man. Catherine, I love Catherine. She's a woman hater. I love that. I mean, a woman, at least for the drama. Thank you for the drama. God, I hate a hen house. I really do.
Yes.
God, I hate a hen house.
I agree.
Professional wrestling. I've been a professional wrestling fan for as long as I can remember. I remember all the WrestleManias, try to watch them all live. Pretty sure I've seen all of them live. Just about. Now, I watched a lot of WWF, which is now the WWE, WCW, NWA, Georgia Championship. Especially now that we have so much access to all of the old shows, I really enjoy it. But my favorite right now is New Japan Pro Wrestling. I do think they have the best product. I think they have a serious wrestling, professional wrestling product, not so much sports entertainment, though they do. It is a sport. Wrestling, I believe, is a sport, and it is very entertaining. And the NJPW style is, to me, the most entertaining style. So I enjoy watching New Japan Pro Wrestling. I would encourage anybody who is a wrestling fan or wants to be a wrestling fan or is curious about wrestling, if you're going to try to watch wrestling, try watching NJPW. It's NJPW World New Japan Pro Wrestling, the best wrestling company around. It did take me time to kind of build up to like these characters, to invest in some of these characters in New Japan Pro Wrestling, but now I'm totally hooked. Now I know who the characters are. I think I've been watching it for about 3-4 years. I have subscribed. I am a subscriber to the New Japan Pro Wrestling app, so I get to watch all of their shows, all of their house shows, everything. Not too much downfalls really that I see with it. A lot of former United States wrestlers and a lot of people that go on to become popular in the USA have wrestled as a part of New Japan Pro Wrestling, maybe under different names, but all for the same title. So the IWGP title, the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, I think is the most prestigious championship in wrestling. And you can see how far back that title goes. It's a big, big deal. Kind of steered away from the WWE model, the WWF model. AEW to me is just too, I really can't really say, I guess, because I haven't, I'm not a subscriber there. I don't even know if they have an app, but they're on TNT. So, it's not really a replacement of WCW. They have a good product, I think, but I don't like the identity politics. I don't like intergender wrestling matches. I think guys should wrestle guys, women should wrestle women. Never really been a big fan of women's wrestling, period. That's just my own choice, though. Yeah, that's one of the reasons I couldn't get into AEW wrestling, is it just felt like too much politics and too much doing things for the sake of doing things, not really because you have the best wrestlers, the best product. I don't know. I just felt like they were catering just to different people. And I don't know. It just felt too entertaining, not enough action. I don't know. And I love some of the wrestlers in AEW. I think they have some of the best wrestlers ever. Kenny Omega. I mean, that guy is just gold. MJF, he's funny. I'm kind of, I do like Cody Rhodes, but sometimes I like to hate Cody Rhodes too. But he's like this baby face now. He should be more like a Triple H, I think. But I still like it. I really enjoy wrestling. It's a total break. The reason I watch it is to get away from the politics, to get away from, all of this stuff. And when they bring it in to the wrestling show, that's when it kind of bothers me. So, anyways, that's another reason why I don't like the WWE product. It's just way too manufactured. It doesn't feel real. The characters really don't feel real. The good characters always get, shoved down, and I don't know. It's just not my product. And I've been watching wrestling. I've been watching WWF wrestling since as far back as I can remember. We used to watch NWA, some NWA wrestling, but it was always a little dark. WWF always felt very bright, very blue when I think about it, and so that product has completely changed. It's just not the same style, not the same format. I'm no longer a WWE Network subscriber, but I have subscribed to the Peacock app. At least I'm trying it out for free right now. Right now they do have a good 4-month deal too, so you can get it for 4 months for $10, which is really good. It's an ad version, but they have two versions, one that has ads, one that has no ads. So but I mean, $10 for 4 months, that's really good. You get all of the wrestling, all of the WWE Network wrestling, so that's great too. At least we're supposed to, but I don't know. Like, it's all focused on gender, on race. I don't know. It just doesn't, it's just not the same product that I grew up with. Like I said, I like to get away from the real life when I watch wrestling. Too much of it is just kind of, I don't know. It's just overhyped. The commentators are really bad. They overdo it, and I know they're just doing what they're told. But so they have Raw and SmackDown, two different champions. They have NXT. They have their own champion, and I just can't get into it. But I do enjoy watching New Japan Pro Wrestling, so I'm gonna stick there. But the Oakland Coliseum, when we were kids, we would go to the Oakland Coliseum, watch their shows, their house shows, whatever you call it. I don't know what they called them back then, but sometimes they would do tapings at those shows that would then show up on Wrestle Challenge or Saturday Morning Superstars, All-Star Wrestling, those type of shows. So that was always fun when we were young, maybe 7, 6, something like that. Really, really young. We used to go to the Holiday Inn, and we would dress up as the British Bulldogs. We'd have our wrestling magazines, and we get them all. We stand inside of the Holiday Inn, and we get all of them to sign our WWF magazine, which I still have. I think we had a few. I think we had them sign a couple. I only have one right now, and then my brother has one too. But those were fun times. Those were really fun times, going to the wrestling shows, trying to get the wrestlers' autographs. That was amazing. Amazing stuff. I had a lot of fun.